Hello friends and welcome. Thank you so much for stopping by. I'm really glad you're here. If you're new here, my name is Becca. This channel is all about my love for spinning, knitting, weaving, crocheting, sewing, all the fiber things. I invite you to grab whatever project you have on the go and join me. Let's make some stuff. I love working with silk. I love the way it looks in the finished garment, but I also love the feel of it as I'm knitting with it or spinning with it. I love how it adds to garments and is just really beautiful. We've talked a lot about spinning with sheep's wool on this channel, and that is my go-to fiber that I spin most often and that I work with most often. But we as spinners and knitters have a lot of options when it comes to natural fibers, silk being among those. And silk has some differences when spinning and knitting compared to sheep's wool that I wanted to highlight today and just celebrate all things silk. Before we get into what it's like to spin with silk, I thought I'd talk a little bit about what silk is, where it comes from, and what are some of the characteristics of it, both in a spinning fiber, but also as in knitted garments' final fabric. Silk as a fiber has quite a few differences from other natural fibers that you might work with, like wool or linen. So in the way it behaves, but also in the way that you can get it. Have you ever seen these? These are silk hankies. And it's a way of fiber preparation of silk that you can use to just spin from or work from directly. And so I'm going to show you later in the video how to work with silk hankies. But before we get into that, let's talk about silk, what it is, and why you might want to work with this incredible natural fiber. Silk is a natural fiber that comes from the cocoons spun by a specific type of moth, a silk moth, in the larval stage, so a silkworm. And these moths are found all over the world. There are several species. I'm going to link below to a web page at the University of Florida where they have a whole variety of examples of wild silks. So silks from wild moths that people have collected and prepared in what is called sericulture, which is the preparation of silk fiber. There's tons of websites and other YouTube videos that talk about the preparation of silk from the cocoon into fiber. And the process of sericulture goes back at least 5,000 years. There have been examples of silk garments and silk fabrics from 5,000 years ago. The mulberry silkworm, otherwise known as Bombyx mori, was domesticated a long time ago in China for the production of fiber and fabric. As a fiber, silk has very, very long staple length. It's very strong, very shiny, and very smooth. The mulberry silk, the domesticated silk, is different from wild silks. Wild silks are rougher than the domesticated silk. The silk itself also from the mulberry silk is bright white. It takes dye very, very well. But some of the wild silks do have a tint or a shade to them. This ranges from golden yellow to green. And while that is a very beautiful thing, it might not be what you're looking for in terms of something that's going to take dye. In fabric, in a woven fabric, which this scarf is a 100% silk that I wove. It's very lightweight. Silk tends to be very lightweight in fabric, very shiny, has a beautiful drape to it so the shine catches the light. Silk is very popular as a fabric because it is a natural fabric. It not only is cool to wear and lightweight, but it also does keep you warm. It's paradoxical in the sense that silk is both warm and cool, similar to wool, in that if you need warmth, it traps air, but it does breathe. So that's sort of a little bit about the fiber itself. So now you want to knit with silk. Silk is available in commercially spun yarn in a variety of types. So you can buy 100% silk yarn and work with that, as I've done with this scarf that I'm wearing. But you can also get it as blends, so that the top that I'm wearing is a blend of wool with a little bit of silk, which just contributes to the shine, contributes to the drape, and enhances the wool. So you'll often find silk blended with other fibers like wool or mohair. This is a silk and mohair. So this yarn is the same as this cowl. It is silk and mohair blend, and so the silk gives it lots of shine. Mohair is also shiny, but it has this halo of fibers around it, so it's kind of fluffy. It does look great, I think, in a lace pattern. You can get this from several different companies. This one is from Bigfoot Fibers, and while I bought this at a trunk show, so I don't have a link to this exact fiber, but other people do sell this silk and mohair blend. Rowan has for many, many years sold a similar fiber called Kid Silk Haze. I think it might be slightly different weight, a little bit finer than this, but also works up very similarly. The silk and mohair is very, very warm as a combination, so even though it's very light and drapey, it does really hold in the warmth for you. So it's great for things like cowls or scarves. As a luxury fiber, silk is really amazing, and one of the most luxurious items I've ever made out of silk are silk stockings or silk socks. These are, I believe, silk and wool, but they do have a very high silk content, and I have worn these and retired them, so they have some discoloration on the sole, and I've mended them several times. Finally decided to retire them, but these are two different patterns that I have made from various pattern books. The silver one is from a book of Japanese style knitting, and it's called Tsunami. The pattern is called Tsunami, so it sort of has this swirling look to it, and I've continued the pattern all down the foot. I have really loved wearing these socks. They are cool and lightweight and also very beautiful. The second is a pattern from another pattern book that I have called Knitting Socks Around the World. This is a pattern that is evocative of English tea time, is what they said. So it has a semi-argyle pattern down the center with just knit and purl stitches, so some texture there, some twisted wrapping stitches on the side, and silk works really well in textured patterns because it does catch the light and really shows off that pattern. So silk stockings, if you've never considered it, I would definitely recommend. Now let's talk about spinning. If you get silk in blends, often it will come as top or roving. This is a merino and silk blend. So it is a commercially prepared fiber where all the fibers are sort of going in the same direction. You can buy top or roving or bats with the silk blended in with the other fibers, very similar to this. You'll often see shades of the color, because in this case they didn't dye the silk. The silk is the white part, but the merino was dyed and then blended with undyed silk. So you get these bright white shots throughout, which is really beautiful. As you're spinning this, you might find that the fibers act differently from one another because the silk is a much longer staple length than the wool. And so it creates some variation in the content of the yarn at any given moment, I find, in my experience. This is often spun with spindles, like this Russian spindle, where the whorl is integrated into a very pointed shaft. These are often used as supported spindles. So with a bowl, so they spin very, very fast, and you just spin off the tip. But Russian style spindles or any supported spindle would work really well for spinning silk. This is yarn that I spun with the supported spindle. This is a 2-ply yarn. of this merino and silk, and I just love the way that it has turned out. I think it's really beautiful. Obviously I have a ways to go on the spinning up all of the fiber, but this is light. It doesn't have quite as much spring as wool. A wool yarn, which would often be very stretchy and have, because of the natural crimp of the fibers. Silk doesn't have that. It's very strong, but it doesn't have a lot of bounce to it. And so the fibers, I think, play really well with each other, especially if you are going to be knitting something that is very, very fine. For example, this shawl, this lace shawl, was made with hand spun, very fine 2-ply yak and silk. So this is one of my luxury fibers. You can see the beautiful drape of this. The yarn itself is a 2-ply yarn. You probably can't even see it. It's like almost like fishing line, but the yarn is 2-ply, and this was a blend of yak and silk. So I spun it as 2 separate singles and then plied them together. Sometimes you'll find yarns that have silk where they spin the luxury fiber as 1 ply and the silk as a 2nd ply and then ply them together. That's the traditional way of making these sorts of very fine Russian style shawls, is they will have 1 ply of the luxury fiber of cashmere or some other luxury fiber, along with 1 ply of silk to create the strength needed for the spiderweb lace, essentially. You can also purchase silk in a couple of other varieties. You can buy the actual cocoons and then prepare those yourself. I haven't actually tried that, although it is on my list. But what I really want to talk today about is these silk hankies. The cocoons are prepared by boiling them and then stretching them across a frame. They're then layered one on top of the other, and you get this, what looks like a handkerchief, but really is just layer upon layer of these very fine mats of fibers. And I'll see if I can pull one apart for you and show it. So here, I think this is actually 2 of them. Here we go. This is what the fibers are like. They are going in every direction, so unlike the prepared top, they're just sort of a mat. And you pull this off gently, gently. Pull it off from the, separate it from the rest. And what you end up with is this web mat. You can see through it. It's very, very fine. But this would be 1 cocoon, or part of a cocoon. I think sometimes they are quite a bit larger than this. This is obviously dyed. The cocoons are white. If you buy the mulberry silk, the domesticated silk, they are pure white, and they take dye really well. So you can find both undyed hankies if you're interested in dyeing those yourself, or you can buy them dyed. These were dyed by Hankies in the Hood, Hanks in the Hood. I bought them many, many years ago, so I'm not sure if they're still available, but there are lots of people selling dyed silk hankies on the internet. Once you have your hanky separated from the stack, the way to prepare it, to turn it into fiber, something that you can spin with or knit with, is to turn this into a very long fiber. So you're going to put a hole in the center of the hanky. So make a little hole, and then it does stick to your hands quite a bit. So this is, if you have rough skin, you'll want to make sure you have, your hands are well moisturized, you don't have any snags on your fingernails, because everything will snag with this. So once you have the hole in the middle, you can just start easing it out. This is how the silk hankies are drafted. They you just sort of pull and then go around your circle, and because the fiber is, the staple length is so long, you can actually pull quite a long ways, and try to get however much fiber you want to have in your yarn, or your single if you're going to be plying. You can actually knit directly from the unspun silk, drafted silk, and that looks like this. So this is, I believe, 2 silk hankies, so 2 of these individual layers that I have drafted and then knitted just as is. So you can see here is the drafted end, and I just knit directly with that. It's strong, it's not going to break, it's shiny and a little bit bumpy because it's difficult to control the thickness throughout as you're doing this. But I really like the way that it has turned out. I think it's very rustic looking, and I have plans to make this into a tank top or some sort of garment like that. It's incredibly lightweight, incredibly soft, and again has that shine and drape that we love from silk. However, there's no reason that you have to knit from the unspun singles. You can just add twist to create an even stronger thread. And I would recommend spinning this with a spindle, a hand spindle of some sort. So you've created your loop. The way to turn this into something to spin with is just to, at some point, pull it apart, and now you have a continuous line rather than a loop of fiber. And then you can just start at one end and start spinning from there. So with that, let's go work on some silk hankies. That's it for this video. Have you ever spun or knit with silk, or maybe dyed silk? If you have any tips you'd like to share with the community, please put them in the comments below. Thank you for spending some of your creative time with me. I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.